Hi, this is Fred with Quality One Engravers. I am going to do a quick layout that was from a customer. I just went File, Open, and I happen to have this caution job from a customer, and I can just double click on the icon for it, and here's the job that needs to be engraved. And this looks like it's, if I double click on it, this is all text that's been typed in, and and what the customer wants to do is engrave this. Now, I am only guessing that for speed, they would probably want to use the same cutter for both lines of engraving. Now, I can see this has been, hit F8. All lines have been broken up. These could have been typed in, and you could have hit the enter key between them and then adjusted the spacing. And I'm going to look at a couple things that I may want to do here. Looks like everything is kerned pretty good, but I have, if you do want to do any kerning, you can click on this. I'm sorry, that's text on arc. Click on this tool, and you can see I can expand this so it's expanded or not expand it, or I can move individual letters next to each other. But both of those things, in this case, I don't want to do, so I just clicked on the undo, or you can use Control Z. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this line, hit F7 to zoom in on it. Now I know it's about a 5/8 high letter, and I'm going to go under Engrave, create a tool path, and in this case it's going to be a fill. Now there's a couple of fills that I like the sweep tool down, but if you're doing a very small letter with a very small cutter, it may take a while. These are 5/8 letters, so that's the probably the tool that I would use. So there's a drop down. Sweep tool down is one of my favorites. So I know it's a 5/8 letter, and I'm just going to guess at maybe a 040 cutter, and I'm going to just assign it a 0 depth. And this over here, if you did assign it a depth and you were engraving it into brass or something like that, you could do it in multiple passes. And then because I'm assigning it a 40 cutter, I'm going to select P40. And if I change the cutter after I see how it engraves, I'll get better at this in time. There it goes, P40. And a 30% overlap is pretty good. Sometimes maybe you might want to go 35%. And this is how it's going to engrave. And I can look down here. And one of the things that I can do, you can press Alt-N to kind of see what the engraving is going to look like. You can also go under View and show, where is it? Show tool diameter. But I use the hotkey Alt-N, and I can tell this looks pretty good. If you can see, it's going to go around and do these letters, and it's going to be 5/8, so that should be pretty good. I'm going to hit F8, Alt-N again, and you can see, because over here in my view I have palettes, I have the job palette shown. I see my job over here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this to each one of the lines. So I'm going to go to Engrave, create tool path, and do a fill, and say OK. Now one of the things that's going to happen, it's going to be in this order: Engrave, create tool path, and now I have a hotkey for it, which is Control Alt H, and then I just click on OK. So if I select this, I can go Control Alt H and then just hit Enter, and it'll do the same thing. Then I got to pick up the mouse, Control Alt H, and just hit Enter. And then now I'm going to take the caution, Control Alt H, and hit Enter. Now this fill on the caution, of course, is going to be much more detailed. So if you wanted to, you could change that cutter to a 60. And let's just do that, just for argument's sake. Control Z. I'm going to select this one. And especially if you're doing thousands of these, you would probably do this. So I'm going to create a toolpath, go down to fill, and instead of a 40 cutter, I'm going to select a 60 cutter and come down here to my drop down and select a 60 and keep it about 35 overlap, and then say OK. And now this is what this fill is going to look like. And then if I go Alt N, I can see what that's going to look like. So this with a 60 cutter will engrave very, very much faster than the 40 cutter would. So let's say now, and of course now I save the job. Okay, so I go to engrave, and I'm going to hold down the Alt key because I want to get an A in the class, and I'm going to click on the P60. I just hit F8. Now I can only select the P60. I cannot select anything other than that. So I would go to engrave, engraving output, and now it's ready to send. I make sure that my driver is correct. I can click on this top 3 little dots for tool setup, make sure that my feed rates and clearances are all set. Now remember, because we used a 0 depth for this job, it will use the value in the pendant in the special menu for its actual cut depth. Obviously, if you're using a machine that's got a touch sensor, it will go to that depth that's specified there. Once the job is done, then I will select this bottom section. I'll hold the Alt key again, click on P60, Alt key again, click on P40, and now the only thing that I can select is, even though I drag a box around it, I can only select just the P40. And again, I go to engrave or Alt P, and you have to click on this to send it to the engraver. Hope this helps, and if you have any questions, just give me a call.